Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you've got any questions today, please ask them in the comments box below in the live feed. Intuit QuickBooks has launched a Mindful Tax Kit. Check out the link in the comments for the top 10 tips to help you de-stress. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During the live session today, we will be running a poll, so please engage with this and I will reveal the results at the end. One other thing I just want to mention is that on the 3rd of March, you can attend the Intuit QuickBooks virtual event called Quickbooks Connect. This is an event I've been to in person when we could go to conferences quite a few times, and it is a fantastic set of sessions there for business owners. I highly recommend that you pop along and register. I believe there is a link going in the comments box at the moment. The virtual event, it brings together entrepreneurs, small business owners, accountants, and they come together to learn, grow and connect with each other. And as I said before, I highly recommend that you sign up for that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Judith Dugdale. I work at MHA Moore and Smalley, which is a large independent firm of chartered accountants based in the northwest of England. I am head of digital solutions, which is a team of corporate staff. And what we do is we look after clients who use cloud accounting software for their bookkeeping. So we provide a whole range of services for those clients, from outsourced bookkeeping services, just reviewing and submitting VAT returns for them, all the way through to just doing year-end accounts and corporate tax returns. We also do strategic advice, and we pull in experts from our special tax team and our corporate finance team where needed, and we help our businesses identify the best way for them to grow and to keep as much money as possible that they are generating. The digital solutions team also help new clients to the firm and other clients across the firm who need digitalisation. So that might be clients that use Excel or manual records to do their bookkeeping at the moment, or they may want to switch from an older desktop piece of software into cloud accounting software. And we do this by reviewing the best system for them, doing the setup, the training, and then offering ongoing support to them. We take that a step further as that business grows and we create app stacks for them. So that might be linking Receipt Bank to QuickBooks, but also using some reporting tools and maybe CRM tools, warehousing apps, stock apps, depending on what sector that client is in. There are hundreds and hundreds of apps out there that we can link into the QuickBooks ecosystem to create a more holistic approach for that business and make it as efficient as possible. Today, I'm here to answer whatever questions you might have, be it a QuickBooks question, be it about self-assessment, Brexit, whatever it might be. And with that in mind, I just wanted to remind everybody the self-assessment deadline is on Sunday. Now, you may well have heard that HMRC are not going to impose their £100 penalty for late submission as long as you submit that return by the 28th of February. So effectively, they're giving you all an extra month to get that self-assessment tax return in. Please do know that whilst the penalties have been delayed a month, the deadline to pay any tax due is still Sunday. So obviously, you're going to have to do the return to work out how much money you've got to pay. I suppose it just gives you the option that you could possibly roughly calculate what you think you owe, pay that across to HMRC, and then do the formal return next week, potentially, if you're having issues getting it all compiled by Sunday. I can't stress strongly enough how important it is to make sure you do get that tax return in by the 31st of January or the 28th of February if you can't make the 31st of January. It's really important to have all your taxes up to date so that you know how much money you may owe. And the other reason to make sure you have it up to date is there is another self-employed income support scheme grant available to cover February, March and April. Now, normally you would be able to start applying for that on Monday. It's usually the start of the month in which the grant relates to. Now, they are not opening the applications for that grant until March, and it's going to be after the budget. The budget is on the 3rd of March, and whilst we have absolutely no intelligence about this, and we do not know this is going to be the case, we are hopeful that given that 1920 tax returns will have been filed by the end of January or the end of February if you take the 1 month extension, we are hopeful that maybe they might allow some of the self-employed income support grant to be based on a 1920 tax return as opposed to just being based on the 1819 tax return as it is now, or the preceding years before that. So there's a glimmer of hope for those people who have been outside of the grant scheme because they only set their business up after the 1819 tax return. There's a slight glimmer of hope that maybe the Chancellor might include income declared on a 1920 tax return. So all I can say is we obviously don't know that that's going to happen, but on the off chance it does happen, make sure your tax return is in so that you can use those figures if you can. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is Brexit. So Brexit came in, Brexit happened end of December, and from the 1st of January, the rules changed in terms of exporting into the EU. Effectively, exporting into the EU is now the same as exporting to America, China, South Africa, Australia, wherever it might be. There are some slight differences. It's not quite as straightforward as that. So there are quite a big VAT and customs duty implication if you do sell into the EU. I'm going to focus more in this bit just about the smaller online retailers, because I hope that any businesses that are fairly large that are selling into Europe would already have looked at the Brexit implications and will have been getting some support. What we are finding, we're getting an awful lot of phone calls at the moment from small online retailers or small retailers selling via Amazon or eBay or Etsy, for example, who are really struggling to get to terms with the new rules. So very simply, the EU want all businesses that sell to individuals out of the UK into Europe to account for the VAT. Now, the good news is the VAT is 0%, so it's not that you've got to collect VAT on your sales and pay that over anywhere, but unfortunately you do need to declare that VAT. So you've got two options. You've got one option is that you, as the seller, decides to sort all this out for your customers. And that means that you have to register for VAT in the country where you're selling your goods. That might sound fairly straightforward, and it is not a difficult task. Unfortunately, it's quite expensive. So, for example, each European country is charging different amounts to VAT register, and then obviously there's an ongoing cost to submit those VAT returns. For example, we've had quotes for companies to register for VAT in Germany of €2,000, which is a significant sum if what you're actually selling into Germany is fairly small. Now, don't panic, you don't have to do that. What you can do is choose to pass on the exporting costs, or for the person receiving the goods, the importing costs to the customer. Now, what this means is that you would sell your goods as normal. When the customer receives those goods, they will be charged a customs duty, so effectively increasing the cost of buying from you. If you want to go down this route, you do have to make it very, very clear on your website and on anything that you're selling that customs duty is not included, so that the customer that is buying is aware that there's going to be an extra cost to them. Please just double check if you do sell on an online marketplace such as Amazon, what their rules are. As far as we're aware, eBay, you are well within your rights to ask the customer to pay the duty. Or require the customer to pay the duty. You don't have to ask them, you can decide. But I do know that Amazon are a lot stricter with this and are trying to get the people selling the goods on Amazon to do the VAT side of things, i.e. register for VAT in a European country. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. I know it seems really, really quite complicated compared to the old way where you literally just sold something and posted it. If you need any more help and advice on that, we do at Moore and Smalley have a Brexit hub on our website, which has loads of blogs and documents and flyers and things on it, which have lots and lots of information. And there's obviously contact details on those for you to get in touch with us if you need any more advice. So to go to that Brexit hub, you will find it at www.mooreandsmalley.co.uk. And with that in mind, I just wanted to remind people who buy from the EU that your suppliers have the same option, i.e. they can pass on duty and VAT issues to you, or they can make sure they're fully registered. And I'm sure if your supplier is a fairly big European business, they will be registered for VAT in the UK, and there's possibly no difference to you whatsoever. However, if you're using quite small suppliers, just be aware that either goods could be delayed because they've not completed the right forms, and secondly, you could get charged with some extra duty and VAT you were may not expecting. So just check their terms and conditions and check with them which regime they are following. Finally, the other thing is, on a personal point of view, if you're buying goods yourself, I don't know, some clothes or some shoes or some sporting equipment, whatever it might be from the EU, just be aware yourself whether you're going to get some added duty and customs. I know quite a lot of people that have bought stuff from Spain and France recently, and they've had a bit of a shock when the goods have arrived with an extra £30, £40 of duty on top of what they paid. But I'm going to leave that there. It is a very complex area, as I said. Please feel free to ask any questions on Brexit or self-assessment as we go through. I can see some of the questions have come through now. So I will start with Roland, who sent a message from Twitter. And Roland says, "Hi Judith, do you know if I can make changes after filing or self-assessment?" So yes, Roland, you can resubmit a self-assessment tax return. Now, I know from my point of view, when we do the tax returns for our clients, our computerized system allows us to resubmit very easily self-assessment returns. If you are submitting it yourself, I think you'll need to go into your personal tax account. And you'll need to follow a few links within there about telling HMRC about some changes. It may well be easier to ring them to say you want to resubmit your tax return or make a change, and I'm sure they will tell you very easily exactly what it is that you need to do. But yes, you definitely can change it once it's been filed. You just need to be aware that if you do change a tax return once it's been filed, it can spark an inquiry off HMRC, particularly if you suddenly drop the amount of income or massively increase the amount of expenses that have gone on that return and are then due a refund because you've already paid the original tax amount. It doesn't always happen. We get quite a lot of clients that forget to put dividends on, and we resubmit those returns, and there's absolutely no issue. So I'm not saying it definitely would spark an inquiry, but you just need to be aware. Any changes you have, make sure you've got the justification behind it should you get asked that question. The next question is from Dorothy, and this is a Facebook Messenger question. Dorothy says, "I don't sell anything physical to the EU, but generate income through sales of online courses. Do I need to get VAT registered in the EU as well?" Dorothy, it sounds like you are, to me, selling services as opposed to goods. So I don't think you do need to register for VAT in the EU. It's more on the goods that are coming in and out of EU countries that there's the issue with. So I think you are fine to carry on doing your online courses and not to register for VAT in the countries where it is. To be very clear and just to double check, I would go on the gov.uk website and just search for that question within the Brexit areas, or if you want to drop me an email at judithdugdale at moreandsmalley.co.uk or digitalsolutions@moreandsmalley.co.uk, I will double check that for you and come back to you with a definitive answer. But as far as I'm aware, no, you don't need to. Mohammed from Facebook Messenger. Mohammed has asked a question. Do you know if there is a website that can easily calculate my profit selling to the EU? If not, can an accountant also help with this? I'm setting up an online store and want to sell to the EU, but the profit will be very low. Selling to EU countries, I might change my mind. So a couple of things for this. First of all, Mohammed, and I didn't actually mention this in my intro, but there is a change coming in July. We don't know exactly when, we don't know the full details, and we don't even know if it definitely will happen, but there is likely to be exemptions on the VAT side, or should I say simplified rules, for online marketplaces selling abroad. So if you are going to sell via Amazon, Etsy, eBay, for example, from July, it looks like they will have this online marketplace rules, which will mean that the eBays, Etsy's and Amazon will deal with all the VAT side for you. And as a seller, you will just continue to sell as you did beforehand. Now, unfortunately, they haven't got that agreed or in place now, which is why individual people are having to deal with it. But hopefully from July that will happen. Now, obviously, that doesn't cover you selling on your own website, but we do believe that there's going to be a version for people doing e-commerce sales as well. But again, we have no details, unfortunately, at the moment. So you're stuck, Mohammed, in deciding whether your sales at the moment between now and July, whether you're actually making enough money to warrant the cost of any of the extra bureaucratic side of things that you've got to deal with. In terms of how you can easily calculate your profit, there's no website that I'm aware of that you would go in and put it in, but very simply, what you need to do is look at the cost of the goods you're selling and break that down into unit costs. So for example, if you were selling mobile phones, look at how much it costs you to buy in the bulk package of those mobile phones and work out how much, including the delivery costs and import costs and anything you may have, how much each one of those mobile phones has cost you. You then look at how much you're going to sell it for, and that creates a gross margin on that product. When you've got that margin, you then need to, or that gross profit, and let's say you're going to make £200 per mobile phone that you're going to sell, you then need to look at what is the cost for registering for VAT in another country. What is the cost of any software you might need to collate that, and then those costs are obviously not per item you sell. You could sell one, or you could sell 100,000, and that cost of registering for that and doing the VAT returns will be exactly the same. So you almost need to then look at your expected sales and then divide that by the unit cost, and that will come back out and tell you whether you think you're making a margin on selling in the EU. Now, I know that probably sounds quite complicated, so this is where actually an accountant comes in really, really helpful, because they can sit down and run through this with you and even do the calculations for you, and make that a lot easier to calculate. We actually have done this with an awful lot of our clients already, and a good percentage, over 50% of those clients, have decided not to sell in Europe for the foreseeable, because the margins are just not there. Or some of our bigger clients who were already registered for VAT in, say, France, have decided that they will continue to sell to France because there's no additional cost for them, but they are not then going to continue to sell to Portugal, for example, because they're not registered in Portugal. So hopefully that answers a bit. The other thing I would say, Mohammed, is QuickBooks can help with this as well. If you're logging in the items that you're buying, you'll be able to run reports to see the total cost of those, which will then help to project forward the sales on those costs and any associated costs. So yeah, make sure you're using QuickBooks as much as you possibly can. A question from Laura from Twitter. And Laura asks, you mentioned a Brexit hub. Where can I find it? I missed it to write it down. Yes, Laura, the Brexit hub is on our homepage of our website. And our website is www.mooreandsmalley.co.uk. And when you hit that homepage, you will see at the front and central, a Brexit hub. And if you click on it where it says read more, it will open up a new page with lots and lots of information for you. So hopefully you'll find what you need. Got a message from Amanda, an Instagram direct message. Amanda's asking, how can I get VAT registered in the EU? Is this a complicated process? So Amanda, registering in an EU country is similar sort of process to registering for VAT in the UK. Most of them are online processes. You will need to engage with an accountant in the country you want to register in, because it's not something that a UK accountant can access the online services for that country. And that's where the cost comes in. MHA Moore and Smalley, we're part of Baker Tilly International. So we have accountants all over the world, and this has been very helpful for us and our clients recently, because we've got contacts in Germany, France, the Netherlands, all those different countries where we can make introductions for our clients and pass on the VAT registration work to them. So it's not complicated, but it is appearing to be quite expensive compared to what you'd probably get charged to register for VAT in the UK. It's not a complicated process either. What you can do, you don't necessarily have to register for VAT in every single EU country. You can choose to register for VAT in one, and then when you're delivering goods to the EU, you send all your goods to that one country, and then that country distributes it via DHL or whatever delivery company it might be, and then you just need to register in that one country. If you need any help with that, Amanda, then again, please visit our website and fill in a contact form, and somebody will come back to you and help you with that process. I've got another question from Calvin, Instagram direct message. Calvin says, hi Judith, a friend has asked me to look into soft loans. What is a soft loan, and how can I apply for successful approval by banks? Now, Calvin, soft loan isn't actually something that I've come across. I'm not sure whether it's where your friend is referring to things that aren't actually a loan in the normal sense of the word. So things like cash flow financing, so stock financing, or maybe invoice discounting financing. It might also be, a soft loan could be where we term it so that it's not a fixed amount with a fixed fee, and that instead you have a pot of money that you could draw on. I would have to say, I probably need to look into that in a little bit more detail. It's not something I've ever been asked about before. So Calvin, if you want to drop me a line at digitalsolutions@mooreandsmalley.co.uk, I will certainly look into soft loans immediately after this, and I can send you a reply to a bit more information about that. So apologies, that isn't something that I've come across before. Shawkat from Facebook Live, he has asked, will our fees be subject to tariffs when working for EU-based clients? So I'm not exactly sure whether you mean selling to the EU, or whether you mean you're providing services to the EU, or maybe you're a subcontractor of a business that's based within the EU. My understanding is there are no charges on services, and that they won't be impacted the same as transmitting goods from non-EU into the EU. Again, it is really important that you just double check this on the Brexit website. So it's gov.uk, go into there, or again, visit our Brexit hub that we've got on the Moore and Smalley website. It might sound like I'm being quite vague, but VAT is notoriously complicated, and there are exemptions and limitations to lots of different areas. So it's really important that you get some professional advice if you're at all unsure, or when you visit gov.uk and look at the Brexit rules. If you can't find what you do listed there, please don't just assume everything will be okay. It's important to double check, and that's what accountants are there for. We're here to help you with the complicated answers. I would need to know a little bit more, Shortcut, of exactly what it is that you're providing and who you're providing it to. I've got a question from Alvaro from Twitter direct message. This question is: Morning, Judith. I submitted a VAT return without some direct debit within QuickBooks. Is there any way of correcting it? Alvaro, you can't resubmit a VAT return once it's submitted. Once it's gone, it's gone. However, if you have got some information that you omitted out of that VAT return, if you put that into QuickBooks now, when you do the next VAT return, it will be included on that VAT return. So you won't miss out on claiming the VAT back. It's unfortunately just going to be slightly delayed in terms of cash flow. Now, the one change to that is if you've missed out more than £10,000 worth of input VAT, you can do what we call an error and misstatement form, which is a manual form you fill in and you submit that to HMRC in between the two VAT returns going through, but that is only if the error is more than 10,000. So I would presume it's going to be less than £10,000 worth of input VAT. So the answer is allocate that within QuickBooks, and then when you run your next VAT return, those input VAT deductions will appear on that next return. Okay, I've got time for one last question, and this is coming from Maurice, again from Facebook Messenger. And Maurice asks, I finally received my bounce back loan in December. When do I need to start paying the interest amount? Thanks for the question, Maurice. So the interest on bounce back loans is not due for the first year. And in fact, the government pay the first year's interest for you. So there are no interest charges in that first year, and there are no repayments in that first year. So you will look to start paying that back, I would imagine, in December of this year. The bank should have sent you a schedule with all the payments and the dates that they're due, and they will have set up, I would imagine, a direct debit to automatically take the bounce back loan first payment, which will be either December or January. So at the start of the session today, we asked a poll of, are you optimistic about your business growth in 2021? Now, 80% of you, I'm delighted to say, have said, yes, you are optimistic about your business growth, with just 20% saying no. And that is fantastic. Now, I suppose you could read it one of two ways. I guess if you've been locked down for the last 4 months or in different tiers, you will be optimistic of growth because you're not doing anything at the moment. But I'm hoping that optimistic growth is almost taking that aside and looking to, you've maybe pivoted, maybe had a bit more of an online presence, and you're hoping that you've reached new markets that you weren't, or new customers that you weren't dealing with before. So that's really pleasing to see that people are still optimistic despite being in this lockdown, which is proving very hard. Just wanted to take the opportunity as we come to a close to thank you very much for all your questions today. If you do have any further questions, please do get in touch with QuickBooks support team on Facebook, or come to Moore and Smalley direct using the email digitalsolutions@mooreandsmalley.co.uk. If you need any advice on Brexit, please visit our Brexit hub. It's on the homepage of our website, which is www.mooreandsmalley.co.uk. So coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is a business strategist and all-round instructor, Ketan, who is the founder of Enterprise Lab. Tune in to learn how to build a growth mindset and to supercharge your business. Please don't forget to join the QuickBooks SMB group on Facebook, and also have a look at the Mindful Tax Kit, where you can find the link in the comments. And again, don't forget to sign up to the Quickbooks Connect session that is on the 3rd of March. Hope you've enjoyed today's session, and have a good day, everybody.